So the Russell Westbrook versus Steph Curry debate, this is something that I've seen going around Twitter a little bit lately, just with respect to the start of the season that Steph had prior to these, last couple of games. And it's all about, to my understanding, does Steph Curry have the ability to carry a, relatively average or below average team to a playoff spot the way that Russell Westbrook did back in his MVP season, back in that 2016-17 season? He led that Thunder team to 47 games, and they had like Victor Oladipo, Steven Adams, Enes Kanter, rookie Domantas Sabonis. Does Steph have that ability? That's the debate here. And the argument here is that Russ completely carried that team, and there's certainly a statistical case. I mean, it was a incredible, historic season. I remember getting swept up in it at the time, wanting to watch every single Russell Westbrook game to see what kind of numbers he was going to put up on any given night. I mean, the statistical production, you can't argue with it. I mean, the usage rate is one of the highest we've ever seen in league history. He accounted for so much of their offense between his own points and assists. He was everywhere on the floor, and he nearly averaged as many points per game as he did minutes per game, which is pretty incredible. And overall, we just never really seen a single player carry a statistical responsibility in the modern NBA the way that Westbrook did that year. And I'm not taking anything away from that season. That was an incredible year by Russell Westbrook, but there's also a non-statistical argument here, and that is that Westbrook, carried that team to wins just by sheer force of will. Like, he brings this passion and this energy to the game that he's just not going to allow himself to lose the basketball game more times than not. And, that is an argument that I think is more so related to this personality and this aura that surrounds Westbrook, or maybe used to surround Westbrook specifically in Oklahoma City. And that is just this guy that is just plays with such, again, just energy and passion and ferocity that, that alone lends itself more to him carrying a basketball team than someone like Steph Curry. And I think that's the basis of the argument here for a lot of people in favor of Russell Westbrook, is the sheer statistical production, which Steph has never come remotely close to matching in his individual circumstances in Golden State, and the fact that Westbrook just has that personality of a guy that carries your basketball team. And I think that right there, that non-statistical argument, is where people try and start to separate Westbrook from Curry and maybe elevate him a little bit more in this specific scenario, because Westbrook never had it, quote unquote, easy like Curry did, at least not in this specific season. I mean, Curry had great teammates, great coaching, great system that really lent itself to winning. Whereas Westbrook, again, had to will his team of average or below average teammates to wins in a tough Western Conference. I think that's where the separation comes from for a lot of people. And this argument was spurred on even more by, again, the start to the season that Steph Curry had, where through the first handful of games, without KD, obviously, with Klay out, with Draymond out, the Warriors were struggling. And, through the first 4 or 5 games of the year, the Warriors didn't look great. I made a video about it. They didn't look great, but Steph specifically just didn't look the same. It looked like he lost a step. And, within that 4 or 5 game sample size, the argument was over. People were already making the case that he could never carry a team the way that Westbrook did it. If MVP Westbrook was on this Golden State roster, he'd be willing them to more wins. I'm here to tell you that's just not the case, because these guys are completely different players. Westbrook needs everything to be about him, and he thrives in those scenarios in which he knows that he's the best offensive player on the floor for his team, and he knows that there's nobody else that's going to be taking the last shot, and that every single decision is going to come down to what he does and does not want to do down the stretch of basketball games. And he thrives in those scenarios. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying that that is not something that elevates him above what Steph Curry would be able to do in an identical scenario, because the difference between Steph is maybe from a statistical and a physical standpoint, he would not have been able to, have the same amount of responsibility statistically or otherwise in that season that Westbrook led them to 47 wins in the MVP. Maybe Steph just isn't that type of player. It wouldn't have been able to happen for him. He wouldn't have been able to average a triple-double and play as many minutes over as many games as Westbrook did. But the difference is that Steph would have elevated his teammates in a way that Westbrook has never done in his entire career, right? Yes, you can talk about the assist, you can talk about, the statistical production, but from an elevating your teammates standpoint, from making your teammates better, which is a skill that, in my estimation, Westbrook has never really mastered in the NBA, Curry makes up for, whatever physical or statistical advantage you might be giving Westbrook in this scenario. Because Steph empowers his teammates to be more than just off-ball Westbrook watchers. Like, he might not have been as good as an individual from a carrying the team standpoint as Westbrook was, but the other guys on the roster would have been better than they were in that season with Westbrook. Oladipo would have been better. Adams would have been better. Cantu would have been better. Sabonis would have been better. His unselfishness and the spacing that he provides allows everybody else to do things that are not directly connected to him. When Russell Westbrook is the main guy on your team and he's doing everything for your team, in order for that to work, in order to optimize that, everything has to be about Russ. You have to go stand in this corner. You have to go stand in this corner. You have to set this screen and roll to the rim. Everybody has to do what Russell Westbrook wants them to do for him to be at peak effectiveness. And that's not the case with Steph Curry. He can, be the on-ball guy and he can create and he can facilitate. Or if you've got other guys that aren't as good as shooters and as good as spacers, he can work more off the ball, off of screens, and get his shots that way. Or he can just, push the ball in transition. You can play faster. You can play slower with him because of the spacing that he provides. And again, especially on the offensive end of the floor, there's no comparison between the two players in terms of how they empower and lift up and make their teammates better. And you might argue, well, Tucker, that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the ability to lift up teammates, and we're not talking about the record specifically. We're talking about the ability to carry a basketball team the way that Westbrook did in that season. Well, I would argue that actually is carrying the team. You don't have to average a 30-point triple-double to carry your basketball team. You don't have to score or pass on every single basket to carry your basketball team. I would argue that what Steph does is just as, if not even more valuable than what Westbrook did in that individual season, and that is he creates a team. He creates a better team than one that would exist if he only did what he wanted to do and forced everybody else by the way that he plays to do only one thing or two things that help them reach their peak effectiveness. So that is the main differentiator for me. Is it's not just the skill set between the two players, but it's the way that they play basketball, and one that maybe Westbrook, the way that he plays lends itself a bit more to a traditional, let me carry my team for a game or a season. But overall, the effect that Steph Curry has on your team as a teammate, as an unselfish player, I don't think is outweighed at all by what Westbrook does. And so in my opinion, if we're going, strictly by this debate of these two players, I think that, Steph would have been just as good, if not better, at getting that team to 47 wins in that individual season than Westbrook. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say down in the comments section below. And I don't mean this as hate on either side. I really don't. I respect what Russell Westbrook does as a basketball player, what he's done for his entire career. He will go down as one of the best statistical players of all time, honestly. Of modern NBA history, he has been a statistical machine. But there is this perception around him that he puts his team in a backpack. And because of all these stats that he puts up, that every other teammate is complete trash. And that's simply not the case. I mean, we saw how guys like Oladipo and Sabonis, granted Sabonis was just a rookie, but we saw how, those two guys blossomed once they got to Indiana, once they got away from Westbrook, once they got towards players that, fit more what they do, but also were more willing to facilitate and to empower their teammates. And I think ultimately that would be a knock on Westbrook and his career and his legacy. But, that's just the way that he operates, and we're understanding of that now. But I don't think we should now use that and, a tough start to Steph's season that has been made up for now, by the way, in recent games, as a way to somehow say that Steph can't carry a team. I have full confidence that if you switched the two players, Steph would have made that Thunder team slightly better from a record standpoint, and Russ would have made that Warriors team slightly worse from a record standpoint. And that's just where I stand on the Russell Westbrook Steph Curry debate. Again, I want to know who you guys would side with down in the comment section below. And this is obviously a different type of video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. You can also leave a like rating on the video as well. Helps me out a ton. Lets me know that you're enjoying the content and helps get out to more people on YouTube as well. I upload twice a day, every single day. So if you're looking for a place for consistent NBA content, then this is a great place to be. You can also hang out with me outside of these videos at various socials at the bottom of the screen. There's a link tree down in the description below. All those things said, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.